Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and
Waalaikumsalam
gentlemen.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Forum Ekselen BUMN proudly present webinar Global Business Excellence Conversation with Gallup with a topic about managing employee experience amidst disruption. So let me introduce myself. My name is Aditya Dananjaya. I'm a secretary of Forum Ekselen BUMN. It's wonderful and precious chance for me to be your master of ceremony in this section. Okay, in order to make this event running well, I would like to give some information about the rules of virtual meeting. First, please use your Zoom ID profile as follow: name, organization, for example, Adit FEB. And the second is, please use the chat box to convey the question to the speaker as follow: name, organization, question. For example, Adit FEB, how to manage employee amidst disruption. And the third is, please turn off your microphone when you're not talking. And the last is, please fill the presence link as delivered in chat box. Okay. We would like to say welcome to Ms. Kanika Singh as Regional Director Gallup Singapore and Mr. Rohit as Managing Consultant Gallup Melbourne, Australia, and also Mr. Gaguk Yudiarinto as Business Excellence Practitioners. Thank you very much to collaborate with us. And we would like to say welcome to all participants. Thank you so much to join our webinar. So in this occasion, opening speech from FEB will directed by team of FEB Go Global. So Mr. Nixon Sitorus, it's your time.
Thank you, Ms. Adit. Dear presenters, directors, and participants, today we will take part in this Global Business Excellence conversation on topic managing employee disruption. Thank you to the participants who have joined this event. Currently, there are more than 100 participants from various companies. This event is organized by the SOE Excellence Forum in collaboration with Gallup. Events like this have been held several times, and today already 6 series. The event benefits is to provide knowledge to participants from the experts. High appreciation to the team leader, Mr. Dialah, Hutabalian, and team member, Bu Indah, Bu Penny, Pak Gaguk, Mas Irfan, Mbak Sabira, Mas Adit, dan Mas Margun, who constantly help this event. Million thanks also to the presenters, which are Ms. Kanika Singh, the Regional Director Gallup Singapore, Ms. Rohit, Managing Consultant from Gallup Melbourne, Australia, and Mr. Gaguk Yudiarinto, Business Excellence Practitioners from FEB. We are very pleased to hear from these presenters who are willing to provide an explanation of employee engagement research. Since last year, President Jokowi has announced to build excellence Indonesian human resources, the second term of his administration. And then this year, the Minister of SOE, Mr. Erick Thohir, also set 5 priorities for the SOE. One of these is talent unleash or talent development. Talent development certainly has 3 enablers, namely learning, research, and innovation. This webinar event is also one way to provide a learning platform for SOE talents. An important note that needs to be considered is how to make SOE become a gathering place for the best Indonesian talents, to attract millennial talents to enter SOE and stay connected with SOE. So the value proposition offered is SOE as a place for talent to learn, SOE as a place for talent to grow, and SOE as a place for talents to contribute to the nation. So the employee proposition that binds SOE employees with their companies is can learn, can grow, and contribute to the nation. SOE Excellence Forum is already become partner of the SOE Ministry to make this happen. SOE Excellence Forum has a long journey to become a gathering place of talents who have knowledge of the business excellence framework designed by Malcolm Baldrige criteria. One important category is the workforce management. For this instance, today's topic is very relevant because it discusses about workforce engagement. It is important to anticipate that the new normal situation and the COVID-19 pandemic will have an impact of an employee engagement factors in every companies. So, on behalf of Pak Agung Yudiarinto, Chairman of the SOE Ekselen Forum, let us open this event and let us learn from the presenters. Hopefully, we will give benefit for us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mas Hadid.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Nixon Sitorus, as the Vice Secretary of Forum Ekselen BUMN and also Team FEB Go Global. And then I would like to invite team leader of FEB Go Global to explain about the Forum Ekselen BUMN agenda and program was running this year in 2020. So, Mr. Dialah Hutabalian, time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Adit. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Shalom, salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the exclusive webinar, Global Business Excellence Conversations today. It's an honor to me to welcome first Ibu Kanika, Regional Director from Gallup, Singapore, Pak Rohit Kar, Managing Consultant with Gallup, is based in Melbourne. Also, Pak Nixon Sitorus is a Vice Chairman of Forum Ekselen BUMN. Today, he's a representative from Chairman FEB, Pak Agung Yudiarinto. Our college executive committee from Forum Ekselen BUMN, whom present today, Team Forum Ekselen BUMN Go Global, and with honor all of senior leaders from Ministry of State-owned enterprises, government institutions, education institutions whom present today. With honor all of directors and also representatives from BUMN in Indonesia whom present today. With honor all of the students of IMD online course Digital Disruptions and Business Analytics for leaders from 75 BUMN Indonesia whom present today. The invited distinguished guests in this webinar that cannot be mentioned one by one. Praise be to God Almighty, all of us can gather in this exclusive webinar with good health and wealth. Thank you very much, Pak Nixon, for your opening remarks. I would like to emphasize and also give some strengthening in our FEB Go Global team as our report to the chairman. First, I would like to introduce the Forum Ekselen BUMN Go Global teams. Pak Nixon Sitorus from PT Jasa Marga, Pak Gaguk Yudiarinto from PT Semen Indonesia, Ibu Penny Indrasari from PT Surveyor Indonesia, Ibu Indah Cahyawati from PT Hotel Indonesia Natur, Ibu Sabira from PT Kereta Api Indonesia, Pak Respati from PT Jasa Raharja, Pak Bangun Indra from PT, Forum Ekselen BUMN, and also Pak Aditya Dananjaya from Forum Ekselen BUMN.
Terima kasih, Pak.
This program was born from a co-creation process initiated by Forum Ekselen BUMN during pandemic COVID-19. Nowadays, we need to strengthen the quality of relationship in doing business. It needs capacity in leading team and also organization through shared vision, making decision, learning, relationship, and awareness. We will strengthen the quality of human talents through global collaborations, which we believe it can grow seed make us bigger and stronger to enjoy the very interesting situations in the midst of disruptions now and futures. In the year 2020, we have done many good collaborations with our partners. Maybe Mr. Adit, you can next. Yeah, our partners in 2020, we are happy to inform that we have done many global collaborations with IMD and also with the Asia Pacific Quality Organizations, with LinkedIn, with experts from Canada, from Singapore, and also right now we are doing our partnering with Gallup. So for few months ago, started from October and November, we are doing our strategic partnership with IMD that we are running until now regarding the online course digital business transformations. So let us give the highest appreciations for the Forum Ekselen BUMN and also for Gallup for providing this very meaningful opportunity in today's webinar. The smooth running of this program as a result of good collaborations between Gallup team, Bu Kanika, and also Pak Rohit Kar, and the FEB Go Global team. So thank you very much, Ibu Kanika, and also Pak Rohit Kar. And we would like to appreciate also to the management of BUMN who always support, and also all of the participants who present today in doing this activity, in sharing knowledge or sharing activity. Through today's webinar, we hope that co-creation and collaboration opportunities can be created in future. I'm sure that the opportunity for collaborations can be utilized through insights from the message that will be conveyed by Gallup. And we hope we can do this on future, Ibu Kanika and also Pak Rohit. We need a global perspective in the context of Industry 4.0, which is currently a necessity in increasing the competitiveness of BUMN business. So we will do some approach and explore opportunities in gaining strong momentum in partnering with our stakeholders such as IMD. We will continue our partnering with IMD for 2021, and also Harvard Business Schools. We are in the exploring with Harvard Business Schools. Few days ago, we met the representative of Harvard Business School to talk about the business model innovations and also technology leadership. We hope we can create, or we can co-create together about a new program in 2021 with National Productivity Indonesia, Asia Productivity Organizations. Yesterday, we have invited by Asia Productivity Organizations to attend the Asia Pacific Conference regarding the strengthening national innovations systems in webinar, the located places in Sri Lanka, and then Global Benchmarking Network. And also, we will do a partnering with our best friends from Mexico, from IMECA, Instituto Mexicano de Control de Calidad, in next year. Enjoy today's webinar process, and hopefully we will get all benefit from today's learning to be applied in increasing the competitiveness of BUMN business. Once again, thank you very much, Pak Nixon Sitorus, as a representative from Chairman Forum Ekselen BUMN, Ibu Kanika, Pak Rohit Kar, Pak Gaguk, for your kindness in partnering with Forum Ekselen BUMN. We hope the outcome of these collaborations will have good results and be more impactful in future. Have a great and world-class webinar ahead. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Santi, Santi, Santi Om. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Dialah Hutabalian, as the team leader of FEB Go Global. And then I want to introduce our moderator today. She is Miss Sabira Maestika from PT Kereta Api Indonesia Persero. So, Miss Sabira, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mas Adit. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to welcome all of the participants. Thank you for joining and attending this webinar today. I hope that you are in a good health today. And it's such an honor for me to have you all in this afternoon. I'm Sabira Maestika Alfred. I'm member of Forum Ekselen BUMN as the moderator of this webinar. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this occasion, we will serve all of you with Global Business Excellence Conversation with Gallup. We will have 3 speakers that will give us insight and also inspiration about managing employee experience amidst disruption. And for the first speaker, we have Mr. Gaguk Yudiarinto from Forum Ekselen BUMN. And the second speaker is Mrs. Kanika Singh from Gallup Singapore. And the next speaker is Mr. Rohit Kar from Gallup Melbourne, Australia. Well, before the first presentation begins, allow me to introduce the first speaker, Pak Gaguk Yudiarinto. He is part of Forum Ekselen BUMN, and he received his bachelor degree from psychology faculty and also master degree in Magister Management Strategy of Erlangga University. And some of his competencies are certified trainer of achievement motivation training and certified interviewer BEI/CBI, and then certified examiner of Malcolm Baldrige criteria, and also certified evaluator of KPKU. And beside that, he also has experiences for more than 12 years in human resources. and also 15 years in practitioner of implementing business excellence in organization. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our first speaker. Good afternoon, Pak Gaguk. Sorry, Pak Gaguk is still mute.
Sorry. Okay. I hope my voice clear enough. Thank you, Mbak Zafira, for introducing me.
Yes, thank you for joining us today. And Pak Gaguk, the screen is yours.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank you for Mbak Zafira to introduce my name, my experience, and I would like to Mas Adit to help me to present our slide. Okay, selamat siang, Bapak Ibu. Good afternoon, distinguished attendees, and also Sobat Ekselen. Thanks to Pak Nixon, also Pak Dialah for your explanation of global themes, and also for Ms. Kanika and also Mr. Rohit from Gallup for being with us in webinar Global Excellent Conversation today. I would like to express my gratitude for FEB for giving me a chance to share my thoughts and also experiences in this event. During 10 minutes, I hope will be less than that. I will present three main ideas. That is lesson learned from COVID-19 and Bold Rate Excellent Framework at a glance. Then secondly, I will share the employee engagement that already stated and required in business excellence. And the third is about high performance organization model. Yeah, and we hope that these three main ideas will bring you as an opening door to get the presentation of Ms. Kanika and Mr. Rohit. As we know that COVID-19 has been impacting our life, including in the working environment. Yeah, some of its impact that disrupt the way organization run the business are as follows. First, office-less working environment, or we call it as a work from home policy, like Google, Facebook, and also Tokopedia, and so on and so forth, already did. Number two, less mobility and saving in business trip costs. Yeah, since we can monitor most of our work virtually or remotely, supported by technology, of course. Then talent fit workers for part-time and project-based activities. Then number four, organizations should be more focused on result-based performance. Then number five, I think COVID-19 already disrupt us, then we can get an opportunity to conduct employee downsizing and termination and keeping the fittest and most productive labor. Yeah. Now I want to share with you at a glance of Bold Rate Excellent Framework as the guideline for the organizations to get to know their position among the industry, among the global players. There are 7 categories in Business Excellent Framework, Bold Rate. The first 6 is process category, and the last, the category number 7 is result or business result. This framework has the scoring system where category 1, leadership, has 120 points, and in category 2, about strategy, have 85. Also for category 3, regarding customers, 85 points. And in category 4, regarding measurement, analysis, and performance measurement, I mean knowledge management, there is 90 points. In category 5, workforce have 85 points also. And the last, the 6th of process category is operation. And the last is category 7 with a score of 450. It means that the process category have 550 points. Based on this diagram or picture, we can see that among the category has a strong relationship one to another. It means that the organization cannot keep their standalone silo or individual management system. All the function, all the organization should have a strong connection to align to make sure that the policy can get and achieve their vision and also their sustainability and competitiveness. That is very excellent. And regarding the topic today, I will focus on subcategory or item 5.2. That is workforce engagement. And I'll try to show how Portraits identified each subcategory, or item or category maybe with one another. Yeah, that is the way how the management, the leader can control the alignment and also the result, because Portrait also focus on the result base. We can go to the detail. In the category 1.1, senior leadership guide us that senior leaders have to create an environment for workforce engagement, learning, and organizational agility, set talented or related policies, and actively role model appropriate behavior essential to optimize workforce engagement, performance, and productivity. In category 2.1, strategy development, remind us that workforce diversity, engagement, and related skill is factors that should be considered in the strategic planning process. Also, clear, measurable, outcome-oriented strategic objectives are defined, which is essential for setting and clearly communicating performance expectation and establishing accountability through performance management system that apply. In item 2.2, when the organization implement their strategy, describe and remind us that workforce plan are used to help align training to ensure worker, manager, and leaders possess appropriate knowledge, skill, and ability. Workforce plan and goals are used to help develop leaders and the workforce. So it's mean in the implementation side that during the COVID-19, the company should review the organization, the strategy, the manning or the people should be aligned with this current situation. Yeah. In category 3, regarding customer, clearly explain that workforce engagement culture and open communication, also high performance work is essential to customer engagement and building customer relation. And in category 4, measurement, key benchmarking data are used to design process to enhance employee engagement and satisfaction. Comparison and benchmarking data are used to improve training and training effectiveness. It is used to support organizational decision making as well. In subcategory or item 5.1, workforce environment, showing that a healthy security, accessibility, work climate can help to prevent employee distraction and help enhance employee engagement, motivation, participation, and self-direction, and also initiative. And in category 6, regarding operation, shows us that engaged, skilled, motivated workers are essential to designing, managing, improving, and efficiently operating work process to increase customer values, organization productivity, and related business processes. Effective performance management, namely feedback, compensation, and or recognition, can help to improve work process design, management, and also operational efficiency. And the last, in the business result, this category asks the organization that compensation, incentive, recognition, and reward are based in part on performance result. Improvement in workforce engagement and communication can result in improved performance outcome. Yeah, that is all about workforce engagement in Aldrich Ekselen framework that guide us to implement the world-class company standard. And the last, my main ideas is about high-performance organization. Referring to this model, we can see that the core and foundation of a high-performance organization is rely on its workforce engagement in a work-life balance. Yeah, the characteristic of high-performance organization employee are as follow. Next slide. First, a talented and skillful employee. It's time for organization during pandemic to review and set up the new requirement of competencies in its position for its employees. Performance management system support should be focused on measurable target and also fairness in the appreciation system. Workforce emotional and intellectual commitment to accomplish organizational work, mission, and vision. It is important, but so far, based on our experience, among the state-owned companies, still there is a lack how the company measure the effectiveness of implementation, socialization of their mission and vision. In Baltic Excellent Framework, the requirement already remind us that it is the basic fundamental requirement how to bring the employee having the same direction, the same spirit to achieve the vision and mission of the company. And then a positive work-related attitude characterized by high level of energy, emotional commitment, and satisfaction derived from the work. And according to Aberdeen finding or research, it shows that companies with a formal engagement strategy in place are 67% more likely to improve their revenue per full-time equivalent on a year-over-year basis. So I have a question to all of you. Have you aligned your strategy, policy, and management practice to build and strengthen employee engagement? That is my first question, or our question. And have you measured a level of employee engagement, and in what score? So based on that score, you can propose some program to improve your policy to strengthen your employee engagement. I think that is my conclusion, that during the pandemic, we need to evaluate and transform our working process, culture, and climate. And number two, organizations should be consistently implement Portrait Excellent Framework as organization practice to evaluate organization competitiveness and its position among competitors. And last but not least, the employee or people engagement is foundation of organization success and its sustainability. So I think this event webinar is right time to us to explore more detail with Ms. Kanika and Mr. Rohit thought or insight, so we can get the whole picture and also maybe the potential answer how to improve our sustainability, organization sustainability. I think that's all. Thank you for your kind attention and time. Back to the moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Gaguk, for your presentation. We get a good points from your explanation, and we hope that it will bring the context so everybody can see and sense the context in Baldrige Excellence Framework. And now we will move to the next presentation. We will have Mrs. Kanika Singh and also Mr. Rohit Gar. But for that, I will introduce both of them. The first speaker is Mrs. Kanika Singh, who is very charming and beautiful today. Good afternoon, Mrs. Kanika. Welcome to Indonesia. So, Mrs. Kanika is Regional Director of Gallup Singapore. Kanika leads the Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Japan business development team to help Gallup's clients meet and exceed their organizational goals. And she has 5 top strengths, and the 3 of them, some of them are related, communication, and winning over other. So it is supporting her experience to be trusted advisor to Gallup's clients and on workplace management practices. And for the next speaker, we will have Mr. Rohit Kar. Good afternoon, Mr. Rohit. He is managing consultant with Gallup. He has 17 years experience working with clients across Middle East and Asia. And he has strength in related, restorative, futuristic, and also analytical that makes him a speaker representing Gallup in conference and also in events focused on sharing experience and knowledge about future of work. So I would like to invite Mr. Rohit Kar. Good afternoon, Mr. Rohit.
Good afternoon, Beth.
Thank you for joining us today. And after this, we will move to the session of presentation. And for the participant, if you have any questions to Mr. Rohit and Ms. Kanika, you can type your questions in the chat box. And without further ado, Mr. Rohit and Ms. Kanika, the time is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Hutabalian. And good afternoon to everyone who's joined us today. And thank you for your time in advance, because time is of essence. And we are very, very glad that you're here today with us to learn a little bit about how to manage the employee experience amidst disruption. So I think before I even get started, there were some great findings shared by Pak Gaguk now around why culture and employee experience is important and how it is foundational to performance management as well. So I'm very glad with those key points, we can get started with our session today. So today we'll be talking a little bit deeper about employee experience and how especially it is changing in the changing times today, and how do we manage it as well. So before I start the session, I just want to introduce Gallup, because Bhushavira has very nicely introduced Pak Rohit and me, but I'll introduce Gallup a little bit. So Gallup is a leading expert on workplace management across the world. We have over 80 years of experience with research and data on human behavior. So essentially, we've been researching how humans behave in different scenarios, capturing that data and utilizing it specifically for workplaces to help build better cultures, to help build better workplaces for people. So we've done this across 93 industries, across more than 200 countries, with more than 39 million employees. So with all of this data that Gallup has been gathering for all this while, one of the recent times have made us gather even more data around changes in the workplace. And even before the pandemic actually hit us, we know that the workplaces were changing quite drastically with the advent of technology and everything that was happening around us.
Sorry, Ms. Kanika, the screen is still empty. Is there any presentation for your explanation?
Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay, I apologize.
It's okay.
So as we are talking about data and research, one of the things that we've found some of the key trends that are affecting the global workplace. Firstly, as Pak Gaguk was also mentioning, that remote working is becoming the new normal. And I think especially this year, all of us have been forced to kind of get into that space of remote working. Also, this specific year has brought us all a lot of uncertainty. I think especially economy-wise, or whether you look at health and safety, every employee or every company has had to struggle with the uncertainty that 2020 has brought for all of us. One of the things that is happening now as the year has gone by, that from thinking about just what's going to happen in terms of remote working, companies are also now thinking about what is the right time to come back to office. So different cities may have a different level of safety measures or different regulations, and how do you decide who gets into office, who stays at home, what kind of roles are required to be in the office. And this gets more complicated as today, if we look at it, one of the trends we've been seeing for past many years is that companies are getting more matrixed in terms of their structure. So this complicates further all of the changes that are affecting the workplace. Combine this with digitization and technology, right? So of course, today, this platform is possible because of video conferencing technology, and really digitization is changing the nature of work. So in any industry we take, we are really seeing a shift in terms of what are customer expectations or what are employee expectations as well. We've also seen that any workplace in the last decade or so has started to experience more and more diversity. So whether you look at racial diversity or cultural diversity or generational diversity, it's even more mixed than it was before. So amidst all of this changes that are happening, we try to explore around what do leaders specifically need to do in order to combat these changes, especially in this year of COVID-19, where remote working is happening, where there's so much uncertainty. We went back into our research around needs of employees in these times. And we published research under the title Needs of Followers. And this is because we studied that what do followers need from their leaders. Instead of studying what do leaders need to do, we studied what followers need from their leaders. And these were 4 key things we found in terms of what people require from leaders, especially in tough and challenging times. These are trust, compassion, stability, and hope. None of these words are very hard to understand, but if we look at the behaviors, if we look at how a leader needs to take decisions, what they need to communicate, we can almost think of these words as the filters as leaders we need to apply our organization. So if we think about trust, we have to really build trust in terms of having the organization's future or employee with the organization. discussing things with compassion, talking about how amidst uncertainty we can have stability, and really building hope for the future. So how do we make sure people have a belief that tomorrow will be better than today? So this, having said that, these are key areas in which leaders need support. We also saw the data around what is really happening in terms of the performance on these parameters. So even before the pandemic, some of these areas are very hard to achieve for leadership. Whether we look at, if employees lead their leaders had a clear direction for the organization, if we think about um, what leadership uh, perceived as having enthusiasm for the future. Um, I apologize. Can I check if my voice is heard well, or is there an echo?
I think still okay.
Yes, it's
Not
very well.
so good.
I am hearing an echo, so just request everyone to mute their phones or their laptops so that you can hear me well. Thank you very much. Okay, so even pre-pandemic, when we looked at some of these parameters, so for example, simple things like how leadership communicates with the rest of the organization, even those areas, only 13% of employees actually agreed with this. And this is when there is less volatile times. So while we know that leaders need to really take charge, they really have a lot of responsibility to build trust, compassion, stability, and hope. And they also need to make sure that there is enough communication happening during these times. And some of these areas that Gallup has been tracking with different clients and organizations across the world, you can see them on the left around whether leadership has a clear plan, how well prepared do people feel to do their work, how well informed they feel, and does the organization care about their well-being? So well-being has been another topic that has been tracked in a lot of the organizations that we work with. So these four are indicators specifically in this year that we've been tracking to see how the organization is faring in this tough year. However, one of the things we know has been changing largely is not just expectation from leaders, but also expectations from the workplace itself. And this is part of our larger research that Gallup conducted around how is the workplace changing? What do workplaces in the future need to be like? So what we found very interestingly is that some of the things in the past that were more of a given in a job, whether you think about just, an annual review process, or you think about what's the pay in the job, and you think about a job more as a means to an end. So a job was considered a means to provide for my family or for my life. But today, with the advent of technology, with the way our jobs are intermingled in our lives, there is no real separation anymore. And this actually changes what people need from their workplace as well. Pretty much with technology blurring that transition, our jobs have become our lives in some way. And so people are looking not just for a paycheck, but they're looking for more than that. They're looking for a purpose because this is my life now. And so I need more meaning out of it. I'm looking for not just going and doing my work, but also developing as a person, that how can I be developed? And this development will happen in an environment where I have a coach who gives me feedback through ongoing conversations. So, hey, I don't need a boss who just tells me what to do. I now need a coach who can guide me with ongoing feedback. And someone who actually understands and values me for who I am versus who I'm not. So instead of focusing on my weaknesses, an organization, a culture, and a manager that focuses on my strengths. So with these kind of shifts happening, we'll take a deep dive into employee experience, specifically employee engagement that we were just talking about as well, and see how it is changing. So those are some of the key topics based on our research that we will be covering today. We'll get into defining the experience for the employees in any organization. Pak Rohit will actually walk through all the critical stages of employee experience as well. We'll come back and zoom out a little bit into just the manager experience. So what is the experience of a manager and why is that important? And we'll wrap it up with some key takeaways as well. Before I pass it to Park Rohit to dive into the employee experience, a quick interaction question for everyone who's joining us on the call today. Use the chat box and help me answer this question that based on the agenda, based on what you've heard so far, tell us why you're here. What was the trigger? What brings you here today? And what do you hope to know more about? So one topic or one thing that's on your mind today. So just go ahead and type it in the chat box. And Rohit, if you can just help me read some of the responses.
Yeah, sure. Obviously, employee experience is something that's coming as area of query in a way.
You know, a lot of people want to understand the changes as well in terms of.
Because I feel that indeed the reason people work is changes, and how as leader we will adapt to these changes. The role of leaders and how they can help people navigate these changes is extremely critical. It's a very good point. Any other thoughts?
Great. So I think, Rohit, there is few more inputs coming in for some things expecting. For example, I can see how leaders lead in complexity or uncertainty, some benchmark scores of employee engagement. We don't have it on the slides today, but happy to share that with you if you reach out to us. The engagement levels in pandemic era, new way of doing something better in this challenging era. I think that's great that we're thinking of doing something better instead of just managing in the now. So over to you, Rohit, to continue and take us forward.
Thank you so much. Can you see my screen clearly?
Yes.
Excellent. So I think what Kanika talked about was the context in which we are operating right now. It's changing so fast. And I think what it has done is it has left a lot of leaders and a lot of organizations thinking, what is future going to look like? And I think one of the things that we have been talking about for a long time now is that we need to be thinking ahead, and we need to be thinking about the future of workplace, not just from a point of view of employee engagement and employee development. All of these are important things, but we need to think about it collectively. We need to have a complete picture of how employees look at organization, what leads to their decision to stay, to perform, and behaviors on a day-to-day basis. And all those things matter because ultimately they impact the business. Like Ibu Kanika said, we first start with understanding the employee experience. And there's a couple of things to keep in mind here is that people always or often confuse employee life cycle to be the same as employee experience. But they really are two different things. Employee life cycle are basically the stages in which people or organization operate or how they can actually intervene or impact people's experience. They are the stages. But employee experience is the sum total of all interactions employees have with the organization. And every interaction that employees have with your organization, it slowly or steadily either increases their perception about you or their experience with you, or it decreases. Every interaction positively or negatively impacts their feeling about the organization. Now, what happens is when people move from being engaged to disengaged, it is not necessarily that something happens within a day or within an hour. Sometimes it takes a long time, and it is the small experiences that lead to them feeling negatively. So we'll talk a bit about both. So important thing to understand about employee life cycle is that we need to understand what those stages are. We need to get them right for our own organization before we start talking about the employee experience. Now let's look at what typically happens when people or organizations think about employee life cycle. And obviously, when you look at organizations, they talk about attract, they talk about hire, because there are two main functions within the organization and that HR leads. And then there is a lot of things that happen. There is development, there's engagement, there's a lot of things that happen, but there isn't a clear structure and strategy around these stages always. And then suddenly, at a point in time, people depart, and that becomes something that organizations feel like looking into. Are they going to be talking positively about us? When they rate us in Glassdoor, will they say positive things, negative things? Will they recommend their friends and their colleagues, especially your high performers? Will they recommend our organization as a place to work? And that becomes a differentiating factor. Now, so that was life cycle. Interactions that you are able to provide to employees and the experience, the small and little individual experiences that employees take away from the organization on a day-to-day basis, has a little more than employee life cycle. It is covered, or it is dependent on three key things. What is the brand of your organization? How do people actually perceive your brand? How do people know and understand your purpose and your mission and why you are in the world in the first place? How are you contributing to the world in the first place? Every organization, or many organizations, are there for profit, but what value are you adding to the world, to society, and why are you existing? And third thing is, how do we get things done? Your culture. So these three things together, what Gallup terms as organization's identity. So your identity actually impacts your employee experience on a day-to-day basis. And the reason we are so critically focused on these experiences on a day-to-day basis is because, like Ibu Kanika was talking about in the beginning, the shift has already happened. It's not in the future, it has already happened. Millennials, your high performers, your mid-level managers, they're all talking about workplace in a very different way. In the past, people were thankful for having a job. Right now, people feel that employees are consumers, they're like customers of workplaces. And when we look at how these customers feel, your internal customers feel about the organization, the purpose, brand, and culture plays a big role. And now when we look at these, so if you look at, let me just open my list. These are the stages of an employee life cycle. Gallup talks about everything from attraction to hire, onboard, engage, perform, develop, and depart. So these stages sometimes are similar, a little different for different organizations. But the real experience of employees around these stages happens when, like I said, they have been well supported by the purpose of the company, the brand of the company, and the culture of the company. And even when you have all these things clearly outlined and clearly communicated, you still see people having different experiences about when they are in the organization. So what is actually impacting their organization? So in addition to these three basic things, you also need to look at the team that they are working with, the manager they are reporting, the leader they are reporting to, their physical workspace, right? And now virtual workspace, how is the technology helping? And lastly, as Ibu Kanika mentioned in the beginning, well-being is coming up very, very importantly, because even when we talk about employee engagement, we know that it has a very significant impact on people's stress level, their health, right? And if we are already talking about that as one of the things that impacts employees, it is important to look at it holistically. What is their financial well-being like? What does their social well-being look like? What does their purpose well-being look like? So those things become critically important to look at this as a big picture. The more we start at the big picture, we are able to make decisions, we are able to design our strategy well and take things forward. Now, I will quickly go towards each stage, and I'll spend about a minute and a half on each. Please type your questions that you might have in each of these stages, and we can try to answer as we go along. So among these 7 stages, the first stage is attract. Now, I will give you an example across all of this so that you kind of understand how and what we are trying to say. Now, let's assume that you are an innovative organization. You want to be an innovative organization. You want to have a culture like that. You want to have a brand like that. Imagine if you are attracting employees, how can you think of innovative ways to attract employees? So innovation, if that is your brand, if that is your purpose, if that is your culture, how can that come across right at the innovation stage, at the attraction stage? So people, especially the high performers, start looking at your organization as an innovative organization and get attracted a little more. Now, you're not just using any best practice for attraction, you are creating your own best practice for attraction, which is based on your strategy, which is based on your purpose, brand, and culture. Now, obviously, once you know that this is kind of the broad strategy of attraction, it is important that you also talk about a few things, right? So one is, how do you meaningfully, in the future of workplace, like Kanika said, it is important to link it to purpose and development. How do you talk about what kind of future would they have? What kind of purpose are they going after? What kind of space and place will they be working with? What kind of teams will they be working? What to expect? People go online and try to find out. They go to their websites. They try to make sure that they understand what company are they going to go for. So attraction, one part is how do you connect it to your purpose, brand, and culture, and how do you make sure you use some of the best practices that have worked well in the past. The second stage is hire. Now, this is one area that we have been working for. While we have been in business for 80 years, we have been working in the area of hire for 45 years, right? And the way we are working in the area of hire for 45 years is because we are one of those unique organizations who understand human nature and behavior very, very well. We have psychologists, we have behavioral experts who understand what does best look like in a role, right? What does the best salesperson look like? What does the best leader look like? What does the best doctor, nurse, what does the best operational leader look like? We have studied more than 100,000 leaders to know what best looks like. And because we know what best looks like, we're able to help organizations identify for different roles what is the best possible candidate from a talent perspective that you can hire. And here, not only talent, but also culture. We have a big organization that I lead here in Australia, where they hire more than 30,000 people a year. We do 250,000 applications for that one company a year, and they would not take even a single person till they have cleared the culture fit assessment. So that is how important it has become. So how do you track for culture fit, role fit? And the goal is very simple. It has to be scientific, because we have spent a lot of time so far hiring people based on our intuition, based on their experience, based on their knowledge, and so on and so forth. Now, my question to you is, and think about it in your own head, is if you have to think about the best leader that you have worked for, the best manager you have worked for, and if I ask you to describe that leader or manager, what would you use? What words would you use, right? And when you think about those words, take a minute to think about those words. And what you'll realize that those words that you describe the best manager or the best leader has nothing to do with knowledge, has nothing to do with education, has nothing to do with experience. It is basically who they are as individual. What are their innate talents and traits that they bring to work every day that make them such a great leader or manager? And we are able to measure that, right? So that is very important to keep in mind. The next one is onboarding, right? Now, here's what happens. You hire somebody, you hire a star, you hire a very important person. The first thing you do is we need to orient this person towards our organization. And people do almost every organization that I go to, they do a very good job of doing that 1 hour, 2 hour orientation or multiple training sessions. and they feel that is the onboarding. But here's one thing I'll tell you about onboarding. That the goal of onboarding is not to help employees know about the organization. That is not the goal of onboarding. The goal of onboarding is to help employees get to their peak performance in the fastest possible time. You see what I'm saying? So if you keep that in mind, how does that change your strategy around onboarding? And when we look at high performers, high performing teams, we try to understand what are they expecting from an organization when they're onboarding. They have 5 key questions that they want answer to. Number 1, what do this company believes in? What do they believe in here? Do they understand what strengths I have? What do I bring to the table? And are they ready to utilize that? Third, that they think is, how am I contributing? How am I helping them achieve the goal and mission? What is my role? By the way, I don't know if you know this, but from our Gallup global research, only 50% of people who work globally have clear understanding of what their role is. It's a simple thing. I'm assuming at least 2 or 3 billion people go to work every day, and only half of them exactly know what they're supposed to do. What a staggering piece of data, right? So how can we bring that clarity? How can we bring that preciseness in what they need to do and what success looks like? The third thing is, who are my partners? Now, I'll tell you an important example, especially in pandemic. We had a client who was kind of going through this whole pandemic, and they still had to hire because their business was still growing, and even in pandemic, so they had to hire a lot of people, but they were really struggling with onboarding. And one of the things that they did was they started creating videos of the team members, right? So they would record a short video of the team members where this new member is going to fit in. These team members would introduce themselves, what they do, and what they would expect this new person to do. So what the team members would do is make a collage of all these videos and send it across to that one person. And that's how they kind of started and put effort to bring them on board, right? Now think about, I'm going back to innovation again, right? Think about how many different things can you do to create innovation or experience of innovation in onboarding, right? So things like that. Here's the big thing that we have been talking about since the beginning. Engagement is a very, very important aspect for business performance. Now, the one thing that it is important to keep in mind, and there was somebody who asked a question, whether you have the right industry or you have the right kind of context to whether engagement actually impacts business. What impacts business is people. And what our organization needs to do is ask the right question to understand whether people are in the right place in their head, right? So Gallup was used to ask 160, 200 questions like everybody else in the past. And then what we did is we moved from that to asking only 12 questions, which was done after we did research of around more than 100 million data points to see there are things that high-performing teams need. There are needs that high-performing teams have that kind of drive more performance. So it is not any question that will help you understand the level of engagement and link it to performance. It is basically certain specific needs. If you fulfill those needs, and these are those 12 needs that once you fulfill, it will lead to performance. And those are things like role clarity. Do I have the materials and equipments? Am I able to use my strengths every day? Do we have a culture of recognition? Is there somebody who cares about me as a person? Is there a focus of development in this organization? Is there a culture of inclusion? Does my opinion count? Is there a mission and purpose that makes me feel my job is important? Are there people that I work with committed to quality? Are they high caliber people that help me get to a certain outcome? Am I able to create trust and social bonds because I'm spending so much time in the organization with the people that I work with? Do I create trust? Do I have and experience trust? Is somebody worried about how I'm going towards my goal? Am I progressing towards my goal? Is somebody thinking about how can I do better with my existing role and so on and so forth? Obviously, these needs remain critical even in the time of disruption. Now think about digitization, think about work from home, think about remote like matrix structure that Kanika was talking about. Even when you look at these disruptors, these needs remain consistent. That's why having the right questions to ask during engagement is very, very important. Again, talking about disruption, this is a slide which shows you those teams and organizations who are engaged have a better correlation with business performance even in downturn than those organizations and teams that start with low engagement. Their actually business performance drops. Their probability of performance goes down when the external environment becomes tougher. So like they say, the saying goes that in difficult times, the tough gets tougher. That's exactly what it is. When you have engaged teams at all times, in tough situations, they will do the best than or better than any other teams in the organization. And again, like you see, if you look at how engagement, I was talking about stress and everything, how engagement is linked to well-being. Here we ask, thinking generally, are you always, usually, sometimes, or rarely, or never able to bounce back fully after illness, injury, or hardship? When you are engaged, you are more likely to feel that you will bounce back from illness, you'll bounce back from injury, you'll bounce back from hardship. And that's the sign of resilience. You see what I'm saying? So that's very, very important. The fifth stage is perform. And I think one of the things that all the organizations, most of the organizations struggle with is the fact that they have tried different performance management systems, nothing works. And the problem is not the performance management system. You can never get the perfect performance management system. The problem is, how do managers have conversations around that system, right? So in general, people talk about setting expectation through job description, or at max, they will have a conversation, and then they talk about annual reviews in stage 5. What we say at Gallup is that, first of all, you have to spend a lot of time and a lot of ways in which you have to establish expectation and clarity, whether it is through ongoing conversation. Yeah. Is there a question? All right. So one is, if do they have clarity in times of change? Not only job descriptions, but how do I constantly, as a manager, talk to them and clarify what excellence looks like, what role looks like? And before I get to reviewing their performance, how often do I do? So we talk about 3 key levels of interactions: quick connects, check-ins, and developmental coaching. So how do you integrate some of these things in your performance conversations? The next stage is develop. Again, the first point is the number of reasons people change their job today is if they don't feel that they have the right career opportunity within their organization. So how do we spin that on the head and say, here are some things we need to keep in mind with respect to development? We need to be able to understand people's strengths. And it's like a puzzle, right? Our kids play puzzle. Each person brings very unique strengths. And how do we kind of maximize that strength to create a developmental journey for them? So rather than, like we say, rather than it being a typical corporate ladder, which is very siloed, very predetermined and everything, how do we create a jungle gym, which is basically saying that my strengths will take me to my next level. My opportunities will take me to my next level. Doesn't matter where it is in the hierarchy of the organization. And last, this is, by the way, the linkage of, like Kanika said in the beginning, we have something that we use called the Strengths Finder, which is a very, very very popularly used tool around understanding people's natural strengths. We have more than about 28 to 30 million people who have done the Strengths Finder. And what we realize is when organizations use strengths approach to development, there is a much more significant impact on business performance. When you look at an individual level, this is at an individual level. 18% increase in performance, 73% lower attrition when you focused on strengths, 23% higher engagement, and 10% increased citizenship. And even when you look at the team level, higher sales by 19%, 59% fewer accidents in manufacturing in high risk areas, and 72% lower attrition. And the last part is depart. And the thing with depart is that it's usually too late, isn't it? Right. So when people have decided to leave, then we are trying to figure out what happened and how can we fix it. So rather than waiting till depart, we need to make sure that the first 6 stages are doing well. Then whenever people will still leave for growth opportunities, for changing careers and so on and so forth. When they leave with a very positive mindset about your organization. They leave becoming a brand ambassador for your organization. That is the whole idea. I stop there. I know I spoke a lot. Any questions that I might have missed, or any questions that you would like to ask about any of these stages? And then once I finish answering the questions, I will hand it back to Ibu Kanika to take us through the last part of the presentation.
I think we have we have a lot of questions in the chat, Rohit, but maybe we can address them towards the end because they're to different topics.
Sure.
In the interest of time, I will just move forward as of now. So Rohit shared quite a bit in detail about the employee experience and different stages on it, right? And now I guess the next question is, how do we plan for it, especially to make the experience better in any organization on those critical stages that we just saw? And one of the easiest and the most applicable way is to focus on the manager. And why we're talking about the manager specifically is, if we look at the employee experience and we kind of look at the different stages, the 3 in the center on which we focused a lot are around engage, perform, and develop, which are almost cyclical in nature. So when an employee is in an organization, you keep going through the cycle of engagement, performance, and development. And the critical role that influences all of these 3 stages for any employee is their immediate manager or supervisor. And that's why the experience or understanding and controlling the experience of the manager is critical. In fact, at Gallup, what we say is one of our biggest findings from all of the research that we have done is the enormous and disproportionate impact that a manager has on somebody's experience in an organization. So if you look at it, putting a number to it from research and data, 70% of the variance in my experience as an employee is from my immediate manager, solely that 70% variance. And this is why I love to say this to clients and to people, that people join great organizations, but they leave bad managers. And this is so very true when we think about our own work experiences of those of people around us. So when we know that the manager experience is critical, we know what is influencing engagement. So how does it look like for the world, right? So when we look at the engagement levels across the world, whether we look at global numbers, Gallup tracks global numbers, as well as maybe US numbers or country-specific numbers, we also have engagement data for different countries, including Indonesia. However, find that those levels don't change a lot over the years, even through different situations or even through crisis, it doesn't change drastically. But what changes is when an organization actually takes a focus, when the leaders take a focus on engagement on the employee experience they are building, that is when you see the company's culture and engagement suddenly changing. And when we look at some of the best practice organizations that have done it, they have over 70% of their employees engaged as compared to the global norms of 15%. So that is the difference that a company can make when they focus on engagement in their organization. So I guess coming back to the topic of where do we start, right? So where does engagement of people start? And I think we just spoke about manager being that critical element and that being our biggest finding. Here's one important thing that I want to leave you with in terms of a takeaway from this section is that one of the most important decisions in any organization that gets taken is who you name as a manager. And this decision is critical because oftentimes in companies, people are put into manager roles because of a natural progression. So it is more about this is the next job, I want a promotion, so I'll become a manager, versus understanding what that manager role is and whether I enjoy the responsibilities that come with that role. And we see this from data that companies actually fail to pick managers who are naturally good managers 82% of the time. So when we see this data and statistic, we know a disproportionate influence is caused by the manager, but we also know that a lot of companies are not taking the right decisions when it comes to choosing their managers. When companies do take it right, when there is a manager in my team who's naturally a good manager, who leads great teams, we see that shift happening in all of the business outcomes. Whether you think about hard metrics like productivity, sales, profit, turnover, absenteeism, every single metric shifts in the positive direction when we have managers that are leading good teams. However, this is the first step, right? It's identifying people who are naturally good managers. The second step is I have a set of managers in my company who are influencing everyone's engagement. They are managing teams and they control over 70% of the variance in engagement. But how engaged are they themselves? So when we look at the engagement of managers in the organization, we find that there is a crisis of low manager engagement almost. Why we say that is because almost 2/3 of the managers are in that bucket of either not engaged or actively disengaged. So this engagement framework, again, is as defined by Gallup. It's a proprietary framework based on years of research. And this is where we are able to see that when a manager is disengaged, they're going to create disengaged teams. If I am not engaged as a manager, how am I going to generate engagement for people I manage? And this is where the starting point for any organization can be. So step one, identifying the right manager, and step two, really taking care of the experience of the managers. We know from engagement, and I think Rohit covered quite a bit on the needs of people when it comes to engagement. What is being measured? At Gallup, there are those 12 needs that Rohit discussed as well. These are our proprietary 12 questions that we actually use to measure those needs. So these are called the Gallup's Q12 framework. It's a research-based framework which is essentially used to identify that how well the needs of an employee are being met in a workplace. And these needs, when met adequately, they translate into business performance. So these 12 questions have a direct linkage to business metrics, and they are leading indicators of performance. So when we think about, performance management, culture, engagement, these are items where we can start. So these 12 items need to be taken care of for our managers in the organization. These need to be given as data to the managers so that they can use this to manage their teams in the organization as well. So how do we start with getting the manager experience right? Some of the tips we have for you from our research is that definitely spend time in recognizing the role of a manager. Well, we do so many technical and skills training in an organization, but rarely ever are people taught to be better managers. So are we doing that today? Are we recognizing that management in itself is a unique role? How committed you need to be to develop the managers. So as an organization, there needs to be an ongoing plan to identify the strengths of a manager and help them develop so that they can see their management style, can understand their blind spots, can understand how they will manage teams better. We need to help create an architecture which allows individual contributor roles to also be as important as a manager role. So going back to Rohit's jungle gym approach, which he talked about earlier, so this is really having many paths for development and not just becoming a manager. And really, the fourth is around helping managers become better coaches for their teams. We are not talking about being a professional coach, but really transitioning into being a coach style manager who can essentially understand someone's strengths and give ongoing feedback. So someone who's able to do ongoing conversations, give feedback which is developmental in nature. And really this is something that we are working with many organizations on, is to educate the managers on what it means when we say be a coach. So we are not expecting someone to go in and get 5 coaching certifications in this case. What we are really saying is that instead of being somebody who, is just giving a top-down order or approach, or, gives only one annual review or feedback, you meet your team when the HR asks you to, that then you're being more in the boss category. Versus being in a category of a coach is where you're spending time to clarify clear expectations. You're spending time to really do some level of ongoing coaching, and you're building accountability as well. And this is not an easy task for managers to do. It's a lot of responsibility. This is where HR and leaders of the organization need to provide adequate tools, training, support to the managers so that they can move into being coach for their teams. So with that, we'll kind of wrap up some of the key findings from today. And we'll leave you with some things that you can start to think of on your own. So think about the experience of the employees in your organization. One of the critical things we'll say here is that do not assume anything, especially in this year when there's so much change. Measure what matters. So go ahead, and the best way to understand how people are feeling is to ask for their opinion. So any kind of survey data or employee engagement is critical to see what has changed in this year. Second would be to assess your organization's effectiveness. So we've gone through those 7 stages that Rohit shared earlier. So just look at the stages as an organization and do almost a strengths weakness analysis. So which areas are we strong in as a company? Where can we improve? And pick up some of them as your strength to keep them maintained, and start working on the areas of improvement. And thirdly, focus on the manager experience. So how are you helping your managers be better managers? That question should be something that evolves into a development and training plan for your managers. And at Gallup, we are available to share any kind of research and best practices. We do a lot of research on human behavior, on workplaces, on engagement specifically. So feel free to reach out to us if you need any tools or resources to help you create better engagement, to help you develop better managers. We work with many organizations on education and strategies, specifically for that segment as well. So with that, we'll wrap up the session for today. And we thank you very much for your questions, and we'll open it up to take more questions and comments from you.
Okay, thank you so much for your sharing, Mr. Rohit and Ms. Kanika. And this is the end of our presentation session. And we will move to the next session, which is Q&A session, but we already have some questions from the audience, and some of them are already answered by Ms. Kanika and Mr. Rohit. So maybe I will read the unanswered questions. For the first question, we have Muhammad Rian Darmawan from Hutabalian. The question is, after the COVID pandemic, many companies made adjustments to survive. What is the best way to convey to employees so that their satisfaction and engagement is still good? What do you think, Ms. Kanika or Mr. Rohit?
So I think like Ibu Kanika presented the 4 needs of follower: trust, stability, hope, and compassion, right? You need to have a plan to create hope. You need to have a understanding and communication of what employees need to be able to ingrain all these 4 elements into your communication. And like she said, it is very, very important not to assume, always ask. Anything else, Kanika, you would add?
No, I think it's basically that. I think understand what the level of engagement is before trying to improve it or not, because in different companies, different things have happened. And so the best place to start is by asking your employees around their levels of engagement.
Okay, thank you for your answer. And the second question is from Pak Rahmat Yulianto from PP Presisi. The question is, how big is the impact on business and organizational changes on millennial generation in relation to their basic character, which tends to be fragile and has little real experience but tends to occupy many top positions?
The impact is huge, and the problem is that it's only getting more and more, because right now we are at around roughly 70% millennials occupying the organizations. And as you grow further, at some point in time, it's going to be 100% millennials employed by organizations. So it is important, whatever their state of mind is, it is about understanding their needs and adjusting your organization to understand their needs, right? So if your organization is already more than 50-60% millennials, you should start changing your policies and processes and how you hire them in different ways.
Okay. Okay, and the third question is from Pak Andar from Pelindo 4. The question is, as explained by Ms. Kanika, stability is one of the employees' expectations. What kind of strategy that can be chosen by leaders to deal with the high disruptive and dynamic working environment amidst those stability mindsets amongst the employees?
Yeah, I think I think it is critical to sort of understand, this is very similar to change management, right? So when we think about stability, I think one of the things to understand is that people look to leaders almost as if they would look to, you know, their pilot in the time of a plane going through a storm. If you're going through a stormy situation, you're always looking at the pilot to calm you down. The same way people are looking at leaders for that stability. But for that, it's important, one, for the leader to communicate with clear, communication, ongoing communication. But also, it's very important to understand and, identify what has not changed. So when we look at change management, one of the critical things is talk about change and communicate that, but also talk about what has not changed and what is continuing to stay. So for example, your values, or talking about who you are as an organization, or talking about why you care about your people, your employee engagement still matters. So those things have not changed even with the pandemic. And I think reiterating that helps establish stability.
Okay, so the important thing is communication and also awareness of our employees, right?
Mas Safira, sorry, maybe from Nixon will be questioning the discussion, or maybe about the SOE policy or downsizing or something.
Okay.
Please, Pak.
Please, Pak Nixon.
About downsizing, well, SOE policy from the Minister of SOE says that we have 100 companies in the SOE, and in subsidiaries about 400, and another level 300. So all of it 800 companies, and employees about 1 million employees, all of it.
1 million.
1 million. So there's a policy that to downsize, to merge similar business, similar industries, to get a big capacity, a big talents, so can go global. That's the policy of the ministry.
Regarding the topic, it will be a challenge for organization how to keep it up the engagement because the restructuring will disrupt the stability of the organization. Maybe Pak Rohit and Bu Kanika can share your ideas about the situation.
I think it's very hard. It's very hard in these situations. Nobody can tell you that there's an easy way out of this, right? But what we have seen that can minimize the damage or minimize the impact of restructuring is continuing to focus on your purpose and your customer and your goal. The more you communicate about your purpose, customer, and goal during these times and why we exist, why is it important to restructure, to survive, to be focused on the purpose, people do eventually understand. Even though their engagement gets impacted, you will be surprised to see when you are talking about the right thing and being authentic, people do understand more than when you don't.
Okay, communicating the policy is very important.
And authentically, and talking about why these, I think why is very, very important. When you tell them why this policy and how is it helping us continue to work on our purpose, continue to engage with our stakeholders, that's what it will, because what as leaders we have been doing for a long time is just communicating what. This is what it is, this is the communication. But we have not been spending enough time and effort in communicating the why.
Why?
And going back to the point about millennials, somebody asked the question about millennial, is that the one thing that millennials need more than any other generation is why. If you are able to help answer why, it is easier for them.
Okay, that is a good message from Pak Rohit. Okay, then I think it's enough for me, Mbak Sabira.
Okay, thank you so much. So because our time is limited, I think it is all for our Q&A session. Thank you so much for all of your questions. And for the questions that cannot be answered today, we collect them and send it to Ms. Kanika and Mr. Rohit. Then we will inform the answer to all of you by email. So from our webinar today, I can conclude that to gain engagement of all of the employee, the organization should build these four elements. The first is trust, and the second is compassion, the third is stability, and the fourth is hope. So the organization should build trust in organization future, discussing things with compassion, talking about amidst uncertainty so we can have stability, and building hope for the future so it can make the employee believe that tomorrow are better than today. So once again, thank you so much for Mr. Gaguk, Ms. Kanika, and Mr. Rohit for joining us today. We give you high appreciation for your wisdom and inspiration in this webinar. Forum Ekselen BUMN expressed its deepest gratitude for all of you today. So FEB will give this token appreciation for all of the speaker, and we will send it to Singapore and Australia. And also we will give this e-certificate to appreciate for Mr. Rohit Kar and also for Mr. Gaguk Yudiarinto and also for Ms. Kanika Singh. So we will give a door prize for 3 participant who has questioning in the Q&A session. For the first, we have from Pelindo 4, Pak Andar. And then for the second, we will give it to Mr. I don't know, Mr. or Mrs. Nivo Yuninda. And the third is for Bu Febriana from PT LPP Agro. So this is the door prize. Book from Forum Ekselen BUMN, and we will send it to you after this webinar. So I think this is all for our session today. Thank you very much for all of the participants. Please forgive us if there is any inconvenience during this webinar. And after this, I will pass it to the Master of Ceremony. So wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I will pass it to Mas Adit. Please, Mas Adit.
Okay, well, thank you so much to Mr. Gaguk Yudiarinto, Ms. Kanika Singh, and also Mr. Rohit Kar for the knowledge and insight that could be useful for our professional career. And FEB proudly award you an e-certificate and appreciation token, beautiful from penholder to Ms. Kanika Singh and also Mr. Rohit Kar. And thank you so much to wonderful collaboration with us. And before we close this meeting, we want to take a picture to all participants. So please turn on your video to all participants. We would like to take a picture. Okay. Okay. One, two, and three. Everybody smile. Okay. Once again. Wait a minute. Okay. Hold on. Once again. Everybody smile. One, two, and three. Okay. Great. And the last. Hold on. Okay. Once again. Everybody smile. One, two, and three. Okay. That's great. Okay, thank you so much to all participants and to Ms. Kanika and also Mr. Rohit Kar. And for the lucky three participants, we will give door prize. There is a box from FEB to you because you asked some question to the speaker before, and I think that's a good question. And please follow our social media. You can find on Instagram and our YouTube channel. That is Forum Ekselen BUMN. We will give some information about the next program. And finally, from the depth of my heart, I do apologize for my mistakes while in presenting this event. Thank you so much for your attention. I'm Aditya Dananjaya. See you on the next event. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay clean from COVID-19. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Rohit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pak. Also, Bu Kanika, thank you very much.
Thank you for the door prize.
Thank you.
For the
Thank you, Pak Nixon. Thank you, Pak Gaguk.
Pak Nixon, thank
Bu
you.
Sabira, thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Pak.
Once again.
Thank you, Pak Andar.
Ya, Pak Nixon, Pak Gaguk.
Oke,
Thank you, Pak. Baik, Bal.
thank you.
Pak Gaguk.
See you, bye.
Terima kasih Pak
See you,
Gaguk.
Pak Gaguk, Pak
Me
Nixon,
too.
Pak
Pak
Dialah.
Dinda, Pak Nixon, thank you, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you semuanya. Thank you Bapak Ibu.
See you. Ya, Bapak Ibu.
Makasih semuanya.
See.
Yang hadir 300-an ya tadi ya.
Iya, dan waktunya tepat sekali.
Bagus, well managed.
Well managed 15.
Ada Mas Adi.
Tempatnya tuh tepat banget. Ke 15.40 nih, pas.
Iya. Seragamnya bagus.
Thank you Bu Penny, thank you.
Seragamnya bagus.
Keren.